When I started traveling 3.5 years ago, bought a van, started traveling abroad, moved to Bali, I was driven by freedom, novelty, experience, and I thought doing that would help me solve the problems that I was facing. But when I look back on this decision, what I was actually doing was just using travel to run from the problems that I wasn't willing to face. And so a lot of us here are putting our faith in traveling, going abroad, moving to this other country to fix the things in our life that we are facing. But what I want to show you in this video is diving deeper underneath this changing your environment advice and show you that maybe your desire for change, for freedom, for traveling is the indicator that you are trying to run from something rather than sit down and face what you actually need to face. About 4 to 5 years ago, my discipline started to deteriorate. I would spend hours scrolling on my phone, on my couch every night, feeling empty, feeling unfulfilled, wanting this new direction, wanting this new job, new career, but just feeling stuck, not knowing why or what. And so I went for the extreme path and bought a van, started traveling, road tripping around the US, started traveling abroad, moved to Bali at one point. And the novelty of this travel and experiences kept life interesting, but for some years, things still didn't feel fully aligned. I just feel so lost. Like after some months, I started falling back into the habits that I was finding in my apartment, watching YouTube videos for hours, hiding behind the busy work and trying to feel productive, shallow work, but not making actual progress. And all of this changed when I moved back to Bali the second time. And I talked about what happened in Bali a couple weeks ago in a video. Essentially, everything fell apart. And what I mean by that was I was forced to face the reality of what I was avoiding, that I was afraid of what it meant to pursue what I actually wanted to pursue. I was afraid of what the implications of that were, who I needed to become, the version of myself that I had to kill in order to become that new version. And all of that showed me that 3.5 years ago may have looked like this surface level, oh yeah, I'll just get some freedom and start traveling and have some experiences, and that will provide me the clarity on what I want to do with my life. What I was actually doing was just running from these problems that I was facing in my life, the discipline deteriorating, the wasted potential, not being intentional about crafting my path, crafting my direction. I was just running from the things that I didn't want to actually face. Now, I talk about changing your environment a lot in content, and it works. It 100% works. But the reason I wanted to talk about this and make this YouTube video is because this came up in a coaching call with a client. And what I want to give to you here on YouTube, the long form, is the deeper and more nuanced perspective of what I'm actually finding about this advice of changing your environment. My client had this powerful realization, this one call, where he realized that basically his whole life that he had been building up, the apartment, the car, even getting jacked, was all so that other people would like him. And he was telling me, like, I could see his eyes like widen as he was saying this. Like, he realized that he had all of these things and nothing changed. And he had been stuck in this kind of loop of waiting for these moments to click, waiting for these external events, waiting for these emotional moments where like the rubber band snaps so that he can take action. And we were talking about environment and travel and living on the road. And as he was describing this, I was putting the pieces together in my head. And I recognized this was the same journey that I had taken, searching for clarity, searching for freedom, searching for these external changes in order to solve the internal conflicts that I was facing. But I didn't know that at the time, but I know it now. And so what I was telling him is that changing your environment 100% works. I still stand by. If you want the quickest change your environment. Like whether that's in the micro or the macro, go to a coffee shop, go to a library, get out of your apartment. That change in your environment means your brain is working with a fresh slate that you can use to rewire your brain to focus on whatever you want to do in that new environment. And going abroad, like in the macro, going abroad, 100% will change your life, but it won't fix the internal root problems that we are facing. That is what I want to get across. We are using these external changes of environment to try to fix the internal things that we're dealing with. And the only way to fix those things is by actually sitting down and addressing them. It's not going to be by moving to a different country, traveling, having more freedom. It's only going to surface those things that you are running from and that you're too afraid to face. And so I finished my point with this question. Who would you have to become to truly address these things that you're running from if external change was not an option? And let me just let that sit for a second. Who would you have to become to truly address these things that you're running from? The problems that you're facing, the lack of discipline, the wasted potential, the feeling unclear, not having systems set up in your life. Who would you have to become to fix those problems if you couldn't change your environment? You have to stay in your apartment. You have to stay in your city right now. You cannot make any external changes. And it was so funny. His response to this was like, fuck, that's a good question. Because the way we make lasting change is going to be the inner work, the identity work, the trauma work, the work on our childhood, our actual goals, what we truly want. That is going to be the way that we make the lasting change, not the environment. That'll be a quick fix, but it's not going to fix what's underneath. And while I have you here, I know what's going on up here. I know your brain, your ego is rationalizing. Oh, but like actually traveling is like, it's actually going to make a big difference in me. Like, I know, right? If we allow our ego to step aside for a second, you probably feel uncomfortable with the idea of doing the inner work. And that is the problem. The ego is trying to redirect our attention towards something else so that we can avoid the discomfort, the uncomfortable feeling of doing the emotional integration, actually rebuilding the trust that we have in our own word and facing the feelings that we truly feel, but we're avoiding. I want to start to close out this video by giving you some threads to pull on. But I want to say first that it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to have fear. That is a biological emotion. The problem becomes when we avoid that or we run from that, right? It's okay to feel afraid. It's okay to be uncomfortable. Discomfort is what leads us to grow. And so if we can accept that our ego is trying to redirect us and how we truly feel is uncomfortable with sitting with our true feelings, our own self-trust, and the discipline that's been deteriorating, then that is the first step to making change. Accepting and being aware that that is the case. Okay, some threads to pull on for inner work. The first thing is going to be rebuilding our self-trust through action. Rebuilding the image of ourself through actions. Because our habits reinforce our identity, right? And our identity reinforces our habits. And habits are just actions that we can take. And so I talk about this in other videos, habits, behavior change, building up evidence of this new image of yourself. But I also want to go a little bit deeper here with the other three things and say, the second thing is going to be starting to listen to your own internal state of alignment. And you can think about this like my engineer mind trying to explain this is like, think about flow and friction. Where do you feel flow in your life? What feels like friction? What just in your gut just doesn't really feel right, right? What opportunities are just coming to you? What just feels right? And start to become more aware of how you feel internally. And then the third is going to be learning to let go of control. This was a big thing for me. Learn to let go of control and trust and surrender into the flow of life. I know that was a lot of words, but essentially means stop trying to control your life and your environment. Release that control and give up and surrender to things that just happen. This was one of the biggest learnings that I took away from my 6 months in Bali. And it's funny because I've been the control engineer, logical, analytical person for my whole life. Yet the biggest learnings, the biggest unlocks for me came from when I stopped trying to control my life to fit myself in my routine and, I gotta wake up and go to work and just allow life to happen, whether that be go out with friends to dinner, go out partying, do some drinking, and stop trying to control every single little piece of my life. And that surrendering allowed the space for myself to do the emotional integration, grieve what I needed to grieve, and start to plant the seeds of the new identity and the new direction that I was heading. It didn't come from a rigid routine control. And the fourth and last piece, the last thread to pull on for our inner work here, is releasing the desire that you want from other people. When I look back on my life, I'm grateful I didn't have a lot of friends when I was in this chapter of my life, and I wasn't posting on social media. And so I didn't have any external validation, external pressure to show off my new apartment, to show off my new car, to show off my traveling. I was doing it for me. And that is one of the things that I think I'm most grateful for in this chapter. And I wouldn't say I've fully released my desire for feelings from other people. But if I can look back at my own journey and the coaching call that I had with my client and generalize that to you, when you start listening to your own internal alignment, surrendering to the flow of life, starting to rebuild the image of yourself through your habits and through your actions, you will become the person and you will follow the path that you are aligned by. And that has no difference. There is no influence from other people on that path. And that is powerful. So be honest with yourself. And look, I don't have the answers, but my question to you is, this life that you've built up, the apartment, the car, going on dates, getting ripped, was it also just so that other people would like you? Like, has anything actually changed about your deep desires? Like, you're spending all of this money to maintain this lifestyle. Is it truly built from an internal alignment about what you deeply desire in this life? Or are you going to keep falling back into that trap of letting your ego speak, redirect you, and make you believe that you need some external freedom, some trip abroad, some travel, some big environment change, instead of actually facing what's inside of you that you need to face? And if you want support in finding out what these things are that you're running from, or support in doing this inner work and want to experience what a deep coaching experience would unlock in your life, shoot me a DM on Instagram and let's chat. That's all for this video. The next time you think about environment change, think about the nuance here. Is there something deeper that you feel uncomfortable and not willing to face? Is there a deeper truth that you need to face right now? That is the work to do. That's all. See you in the next one.